What's up? This is Brandon London, and you're listening to the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. You hear that? The Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. Let's go, Giants.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. This week we are 75% British, 25% Irish, but absolutely still 100% Giants. Shane and Kev are back, so it's a full house to bring you the latest Giant news on what is International Women's Day. Happy Women's Day, everybody. The Daniel Jones saga, the Daniel Jones contract saga, came to a dramatic conclusion last night. Which we're all going to talk about very, very shortly. And plus later on, as our resident college experts are back in the house, we'll break down their draft boards, or start to break down their draft boards as we start looking at the top 5 prospects in each position. Guys, how are we doing?
Yeah, really good. It's good to be back. Start off by just giving a quick shout out to Ruben for last week's episode. Listen back to it on my journey to work, and it was a really, really great guest to have on. And a really great episode to listen to just as a listener this time.
Yeah, definitely. Just to echo that, I mean, Ruben was a fantastic guest and you boys done really well, and it was a very good listen back. But we all know why we're here this evening.
Yes, finally got done. I know that myself and Shane were at football last night. I don't know about you, Shane, but I was glove off, refreshing constantly with my hand going completely and utterly numb, just waiting for that news to break.
Glove off, hand going numb. Are you sure you're a football, Craig?
I know, it's so funny. I'm sitting there constantly all evening, refreshing, thinking this can't get close. This should be organized like well in advance, and it's just waiting to announce it. I mean, like kind of like we were sitting there waiting. I put it in the group chat last night. You're sitting there waiting for like a last minute goal in a cup final, and you're peppering the goal, and you're like, so you think it's going to come. Luckily, it did in the end.
Yeah, literally at the very, very last minute. I think part of me thinks they'd done it a few hours earlier and sort of left it to drop to the media just to create sort of dramatic effect and sort of drop it 5 minutes before the deadline at 9 o'clock. Yeah, but anyway, we're going to talk more about that in a minute. As I said, coming up for you later on as well is Shane and Kev's top 5 draft prospects. Starting off this week with quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers. But there is only one place we can start and kick off tonight, and that's the news that, like I said, just broke before 9 p.m. last night. After an anxious wait, a last-minute deal was struck with Daniel Jones and his representatives. And after declining the quarterback's fifth-year option, we've now agreed to a 4-year, $160 million contract with Daniel Jones. And he can also earn another $35 million in incentives over the course of that 4 years as well. So it's big, big money for a big-time player. It's been since revealed that the cap hit for this upcoming season is around $19 million. However, the hits for the other 4 years aren't known yet. And also, despite this being announced as a 4-year deal, it seemed the contract is only fully guaranteed in the first 2 years. And there's an option to sort of get out of it in year 3. What that looks like will be very interesting. But before we get into specifics of the deal, I just want to gauge your initial thoughts on re-signing Daniel Jones. Is it a good move, or would have preferred to explore other options? Shane. Kev.
I'm pleased he's back. Nothing more than just pleased. I'm not happy or ecstatic or buzzing. I still think he's got a lot to prove. I got to the point where I don't think he's a £40 million player. That's just me. But I understand that's the market. Just because I don't agree with it, doesn't really matter what I think effectively. I just don't think he's a £40 million player. I think he's a middle of the road QB. He's kind of in that 12 to 16 range. Yes, he had a top 10 QB season last year. But what about the previous 2 years? And even his rookie year, I mean, people say he had a great rookie year. He did, but there was no tape on him. So I kind of expect a rookie to have an okay season when there's no tape on him. It's one of the, it's kind of time going to tell if it's a good move or not. But without a doubt, I think Dable and Shane have to a certain extent have hitched their horse to this wagon now. And the one thing everyone seems to be overlooking as well. I mean, let's give a shout out to Dave Gettleman. I mean, he ain't here if we don't get him.
Wow, we're still talking about Dave Gettleman.
It was his pick.
Congrats, Dave. Congrats. Well done. There you go. Shout out done. Kev, what
So initial thoughts are I was pleased. I wanted to get the deal done. I knew it would be around the 40 million per range because that pits him around sort of like the 7, 8, 9 currently average. Obviously, it's average. Come to light this evening is the actual cap hits, and we'll get into that exactly in a little bit. But I just think I wanted him back because I saw enough traits in him, and obviously Dable and Shane did as well. This is their first time head coach, first time GM, and I actually trust them. They've done well by us so far, and they've evaluated him and decided, look, he's got the traits and talent to build around. We just need to build around him. I mean, the way I kind of was thinking about it last night after the deal came through, I think they're paying for what they expect him to be with their coaching and with the putting talent around him. It's almost, I'd liken it to taking a first round pick. You never know how, you don't know how the first round pick is going to be. You're investing big time money and draft capital into a first round pick on what you predict they will be going forward. And I think, Daniel Jones has shown enough over the last 4 years, but specifically this past year, to warrant a bit of trust in him and for us to get behind him and go. And we'll talk about the structure of the deal. It's a very good deal in respects of it's an easy deal to get out of after 2 years. So, it's not like a big time 4-year commitment. It looks big. You see the 4 years, you see the 160, but you can actually get out of it after 2 years, which I think is great play by Shane. But obviously, the agent and Daniel Jones, they hit that 40 million mark. I think that 40 million per year average was a number that they just wanted to get to, as his confidence. He's a QB. He wants to compete against the best. I think they wanted to get to that number, and they managed to kind of meet in the middle, get to the number they needed to get to get the deal across the line.
In Shane we trust. Craig. You're on mute, Craig.
And that's the learning of not muting yourself. But I think this is one thing it's interesting that you get a contract where both teams can kind of walk away from it and think, we've won this. If you look at the way that Jones he wanted something to come up with, around the 40 mark. And if you look at the average per year, it's in the 40 mark. If you take it across the entirety and look at all the additions there. And then Shane wanted to walk away with something more towards the 35 mark, and you look at the outs and it's more towards the 35 mark. So it's very interesting that you can walk, DJ can walk away and go, well, I'm going to take my agent and all my friends out for dinner and pay for it, like he said he did. Whereas Shane can turn around and go, well, I've hit exactly what I want to do. Like Kev said, we'll get into it, but low cap hit year one that allows us a bit more flexibility. And I think overall there's not much you're not going to like.
Yeah, I think personally for me, I'm so glad it got done. Even though it took right up to the deadline last night, I'm just happy it's done and out of the way. For me, I've always been in the case of just pay the man. I mean, he earned his contract this last year. He got us, not only got us to the playoffs, but won us a playoff game as well. He showed what he can do, not just with his arm, but with his legs, more importantly as well, and that he can lead this offense. I get your reservations about him, Shane, because he's still not shown that he's top 10 talent, and I think he got the potential to get there. But to get there, we needed to tie him up, and we've tied him up. And I think Joe Shane's going to be happy with the contract that he's signed into, and Dan Jones is pretty chuffed with the contract that he's got as well. So I think it's definitely a win-win for, like Craig said, for both parties. And it's hopeful and it's looking good for 2023 that we've tied him up to that contract. And now we can put all this in the past and really focus on this season and building on the success of last year as well.
Just to notice quickly, sorry, Dan, before you go on, just to give you people, listeners, an idea of what ballpark he's in. So the players currently ahead of him are Rodgers, Wilson, Murray, Deshaun Watson, Mahomes, Allen, and then Stafford and Prescott. And then the QBs just behind him are Carr, Cousins, Goff, Jackson on the tag, Matt Ryan, Tannehill, Baker Mayfield. So you can see kind of where he's fitting in the current. And obviously you're going to get quarterbacks like your Trevor Lawrence, your Burrows, these type of quarterbacks are going to get paid soon as well, and they will overtake Daniel Jones. So, it's not, people see the 40 million and think it's outrageous. And we said it before on the podcast, it is. Anyone getting paid that money is outrageous. But I think it kind of slots in the right sort of valuation, to be honest.
Yeah, you look at those players ahead of him and you think, all right, fair enough. You look at the players behind him and you think, well, Jones is better than pretty much all of them bar one, maybe. So, I think it's pretty fair where he is, where his contract sits. And like you said, the guys that are still on rookie deals that are better quarterbacks than him are eventually going to take over. Just a few interesting things to note. So the fact that he looked good under last year's offense and the players around him elevated because of his play. He's the first Giants first round pick to receive a contract extension since Odell Beckham Jr., which is quite astounding. And so when that was posted in the group chat earlier, I thought, wow, okay, that really surprised me.
There's another part to that as well. I actually saw that he's the only other player that we've drafted that we have signed to a contract extension other than those two is Sterling Shepard.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow. So
it is crazy, but
goes to show, like, just over the last 10 years, how poor our drafting's been. Either that, or we've just let good talent leave the building and not tie them up to a new deal. So, sorry, Kev, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, I do think we need to build around him. I think now the Sheehan has a bit of money to spend now. He's kind of said today in his press conference, he's not shopping in the bargain aisle anymore. He won't go mad in free agency, but he is able to use the money they've got available to them. Again, we'll probably get touch on that a little bit later. And also the draft picks. He's got another draft now. He's got a full season of scouting now, whereas he came in late in the process last year, don't forget. So he's actually got a full year as a Giants GM scouting the college ranks. So I'm hopeful that they will be able to put things in place to be able to show the true potential that he's got.
Yeah, definitely. I think the fact that he's year one only hits 19 million on the cap allows the team to make some moves in free agency, and it's. I don't think we're going to go stupid in free agency and sign some players with crazy money, but it allows us some flexibility. And the fact that he must have impressed Dable and Shane. He really must have impressed them for them to sign him, because they had no ties to him before that, and they could have easily just walked away and said, you know what, he's not our guy. We don't want him in the building. Let's go. Let's move on and let's create the team that we want. So he must have impressed them. And it's the first time as a pro that he's going to have the same offensive coordinator for 2 years in a row, which is, it's only going to help to build on the success of last season. But Shane, what do you think having that same offensive coordinator for the second year in a row, what impact do you think that's going to have on Dan Jones?
In all honesty, it needs to have a big impact. Realistically, you're paying a quarterback franchise money now. Like, for me, Jones has got to get better than what he was this year. Like, I don't want to see the same. I want to see an improvement. You're getting paid like a franchise quarterback now, so I want to see that play from you. The big reservation I had was Brian Dable improved Josh Allen. Brian Dable improved Daniel Jones. So why couldn't Brian Dable improve another quarterback if we'd have gone that route? So that's one of the reservations I have. But I think, he's got to throw it a little bit more. He's got to have either the OC's got to have faith in him, or he's got to have faith in the play calling and himself. Because, was it 2 years ago when he had, was it the most deep balls completed or some stat like that? But it seemed like last year, the season just gone, sorry, which technically is last year now, he wasn't throwing it. deep, and there was some hesitance at time, and it's kind of a case of now you want to see him making them throws that you can he makes, and you say he's one of the few quarterbacks that can make that throw. So whilst I think keeping Kafka's obviously going to be an improvement, I think it's got to be as well.
Yeah, you make a good point about the fact that Jones was one of the best, was leading the league in deep balls the year before last, and didn't so much throw it deep last year. But I think that's probably down to playbook/play calling, and us not being in the position where we're desperate to score points, like we were in the year before under Joe Judge, where he didn't feel like he had any other option because nothing else was working. He's just going to launch it downfield and hope for the best. And whether luckily or not, Jones connected on the passes and ended up leading the league in that metric. But you make some valid points to Shane, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how he operates in the second year under the same offense coordinator, and if it's going to have any dramatic impact on the offense and on Dan Jones himself. So, going to look in depth at Jones's contract, and there's only one person that can really talk in depth about Dan Jones's contract. That's our resident cap king. That's Mr. Kev. So, Kev, give us the details of Dan's contract.
Well, we'll go into all the nitty gritty of it, but essentially, right, it's a 4-year deal, 160 million, 82 million guaranteed over the first 2 years. So basically, the way I look at these type of deals is, right, what is the cap hit each year, and when can we get out of the deal? Those are kind of like the big things when it comes to these big contracts. And you're looking at it, and you're saying, right, it's 19 million this year cap hit, then it's 45 million next year cap hit, 39.5 2025, and then it jumps to 56 in 2026. Now, obviously, those are it does get increased numbers, but people have to remember as well, the cap this year is 229, sorry, 229 million, the salary cap, and that's expected to jump to 260 next offseason, and then it's expected to jump to 290 the season after. So you look at when Daniel Jones is getting paid 45 against the cap next season, in fact, the cap will be up 30 million anyway. So you kind of have to think that, all right, these are big numbers going forward, but don't forget the cap is going to increase significantly going forward. The deal's been structured in a way where, the first 2 years are pretty much fully guaranteed. He's playing for the Giants for at least 2 years. We know that. But then after that, there is an out. And we would actually make 21.5 million cap savings if we were to cut him after year 2. So the way the deal's been structured, I think, is fantastic. And I can see why Jones's camp are pushing back, maybe on the way this was structured. And maybe the give was, all right, we'll give you the 40 per, but we want an out after 2 years. And they kind of structured it that way, especially this season, dropping down to 19, because if he had been tagged, he would have been tagged at 32.5 million. Whereas now he's coming in at 18.5, actually, to correct myself, 18.5 million this year. And Daniel Jones actually said that he was keen to get the deal over the line to be able to reduce the number and actually help the team out in that way. And also, just to veer off a little bit, and we'll talk about it in a second, getting the deal over the line allowed the Giants to tag Saquon Barkley to make sure that both parties were able to come back and help the Giants going forward.
Yeah, I think it looks, like you said, it looks big on the outset. It looks like it's a big contract. I think we're $160 million over 4 years. There's a lot of money. But when you actually look at the intricacies of it, it's pretty smart. And I think Joe Shane's waved his little magic wand and worked some real magic with this contract, because there's there's big numbers, but it doesn't all hit in one season. It's all sort of fairly well staggered out across the 4 years. And like I said, there's that out after 2 if needs to be as well. But how much cap space does that leave us to play with during free agency and for using to sign our draft class then?
So with this deal coming in now, and both are actually sort of registered. So we do have the 10.1 million for Saquon, and we have the 18.5 for Daniel Jones. It actually currently leaves us with about leaves us with about 18.5 million at the moment. Now that's not taking into consideration rookie. What's the word I'm looking for? Basically the rookie money. There's the money needed for the rookie
class.
the rookie class, but there's like another word for it anyway. But like,
there's a term, isn't there? Yeah,
like the money needs to be kept aside, and that's approximately 11 million. But also that's not including the Kenny Golladay cut. So we have said we're going to cut him, but Joe Sheehan hasn't decided yet whether that's going to be a pre-June cut or a post-June cut. Now, if it's a pre-June cut, we take all the cap hit this year, and we save 6.7 million this year, and we save all of his 21 next year. That would be my preference, because we really don't want to take any more dead money into next season. But if we decide to designate it a post-June 1st, then it's going to be 13 million savings this year, but then we will have to pay that 6.7 next season. That will go on to the dead money for next season. But obviously with the cap jumping, it could be something they want to do. And just a quick note on that, if you designated a post-June cut, the money cannot be used until June. It's not like you cut him, post-June designation, 13.5 million, and you get that money to use now. You don't. You can only use it then. But again, that money could be used towards the draft class, because you don't have to sign your draftees until further down the line into camp and stuff. But there's Leonard Williams is currently on the cap for 32 million. 32 million. Adoree Jackson's on for 19. I mean, these are players that if we were looking to extend, we could bring down their cap number significantly by building the money into the deal for future years. So that's what I would like to do with them too. I mean, Leonard Williams himself, if we were to just cut him, we would save 12 million by cutting him. But are you going to get a player as good as Big Cat for 12? I'd rather speak to him. At the age of 29, he's got at least 2-3 years left in him. I would look to extend him and bring that cap number down. And there's lots of other little things they can do to try and maneuver some money. So that 18 isn't a hard number, but we do have. We have enough money to bring in 2 or 3 good mid-level players and be able to function for the season.
Yeah, and I think Big Cat's already said he's willing to take a pay cut and drop his number to re-sign and help out the team this year as well, isn't he? So, But
don't forget, if Saquon signs a long-term deal, his 10.1 will drop as well for his cap for this season if he signs an extension.
Yeah, I think we're in such a better position than we were this time last year, aren't we? Like, this time last year, we were crying, and we were literally, as I think, as Keith said a couple of weeks ago, we had like £2.50 in cap space. So we're in such a better position. I think moving forward, it comes down to management of that cap, and I fully trust Joe Shane to do it. I really do.
I mean, like, the only thing we could do last year was we signed Mark Lewinsky as like a mid-level type player, and he was signed to a 3-year, $19 million deal. But his cap hit last year was 3. His cap hit this year is 8.5, and his cap hit next year is 7. So we'll have money to be able to get players in on that type of deal. Like, say, for example, you're going to pay someone 3 years, 19 million, but the cap hit would only be about 3 this season. Do you know what I mean? So you're able to make a few of those type of deals easy enough.
Yeah, man. All right, Craig, given that we know the specifics of the new contract now, what do you make of it? And do you think it's good value?
Yeah, like I touched on before, I think it's a friendly deal for both parties, isn't it? I think Joe Shane's been quite savvy in what he's done. I think the outs that we have after 2 years and 3 years are massive for not only securing an out if Jones struggles, but also not, handcuffing ourselves if that is the case. By the fact that we can get out with only 9 million in dead cap space if we cut him in 2026, and Kev will probably know the number better than I will off the top of my head, but I believe his cap hit for 2025 isn't too high if we cut him. Is that right?
For 2025, if we cut him, we would save 21.5 million. So his actual dead money would be 18, but we would save 21. His cap is 39. His actual cap is 39 in 2025. Sorry.
And as we've said, the cap number is only going to go up. So best case scenario, Daniel Jones turns into a top 5 quarterback, hits all his incentives because he's got crazy incentives of 1 million for being a top 15 quarterback, and another million for being top 10, and another million for being top 5. And
I will just say, I did forget to mention, like, people saw the 35 million incentives. I mean, tied into that is stuff like MVP, like, and Super Bowl wins. And like, so although you see the big number of 35, if he hit everything on that, I mean, we've won multiple Super Bowls and we've been fantastic. So happy days.
And the other thing to note on that is the fact that I think the incentives add up to 70 million, but he can only earn a maximum of 35 million through those incentives. So it is very smart what Shane's done, and the verbiage in it will take weeks and weeks to digest fully and to try and really understand how this works. But yeah, I think it is good value if you look at the bigger picture. But as we know, and what Giants Twitter has been like for the last couple of weeks, it's like a war zone out there. And people don't delve in, do they? People will see one number and they will focus on that one number, and you just got to look at the bigger picture sometimes.
Always look at the bigger picture when it comes to money, when it comes to contracts. All right, so we've signed Dan Jones up long term, well, mid to long term. 4 years potentially, job done. What about Saquon? So now that obviously we've tagged Saquon Barkley, so the exclusive franchise tag has gone on Saquon Barkley, which ties into the team for $10.1 million this season. But it still allows other teams to negotiate with him. If they wanted to sign him, they're going to have to give up 2 first-round picks. Playing on the tag isn't sort of the desired outcome for him. He doesn't want to play on the tag. But there are reports to say that the Giants and Barkley's agents have had positive talks on Monday. And it all points to sort of a continuation of negotiations that hopefully result in a long-term deal. Joe Shane reiterated his love of Saquon during a press conference as well. Said he's a good teammate, he's a captain, and he's a hell of a player. So, Shane, what's the likelihood of Barkley signing a new deal before the 15th of July deadline?
I don't believe Saquon will play on the tag, and that's because I think he'll get a deal. I think that he'll sign a 3-year deal, and I know some people might not want to hear that, but I think, I personally think the important thing, I think if you bring in DJ back, I think you need to bring Saquon back as well, because I think they're probably both as key to each other, and them two combined is what led to our success this year. Yeah, Barkley faded off in the middle, but he was still a key part as to why Daniel Jones was able to do some of the stuff he was able to do at times, especially at the start of the season when we were getting teams to bite on that play action. And, Jones was keeping the ball and they were all running towards Saquon thinking he'd got it. So I think that Saquon will get a deal. I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe got it before next week to give it us even more money for free agency.
Let's hope so. Just obviously see that question from Steve pop in. Evening, Steve. Glad to see you watching and listening. I genuinely think he'll get a deal as well, and I think he'll get a deal sooner rather than later. Nothing about Barkley screams to me greedy, selfish, money grabbing. To me, Barkley is all about team. He's all about winning. He's all about being competitive and being professional. And so, I personally think, within the next month, he'll have a new deal locked down, and it will only benefit the team in the long term even more. What do you reckon, Kev?
Yeah, so I think, so say for example, like, if we come in, sign him for like a 3-4 year deal, say it's a 4-year deal, and I believe he was offered 12 million per year in the bye week, and he turned that down. Obviously, he picked up injuries. He didn't have the consistency throughout the whole season, although he was healthy for the whole season and played really well at the beginning and really well at the end. There was a bit of inconsistency in the middle. And he said he's not, and he did say in his post exit interviews that he wasn't trying to reset the market. So he's not trying to get like 16 million McCaffrey money. But I believe, the Giants are sort of staying around 12.5. I mean, I think they would go to 13, 14 tops, but I think like you won't see much more than that. I think Barkley's holding out for around 14 million per year. But I can see it coming at like 13. So say, for example, if you sign to a 4-year deal at like 13 average, the first year you could have it as low as 5 million. And then obviously have the money spread out along the rest of the deal. But again, don't be surprised if this comes in like at a 2-year deal with a 2-year out. The way Shane has kind of structured this Daniel Jones deal. So I can see it happening. Part of me would say, right, play on the tag and see how you are, prove it again. But also another part of me is like, he is a class player on his day, and he is a proper giant. And part of me wants, you have to reward your good players. And then, to show the rest of the league, look, this is what we do. We're giants. We do things a good way, a classy way. Do you know what I mean? You come in, you play well, you get the rewards for that. And we've seen that with Daniel Jones now, and I definitely think we can see it with Barkley. I mean, he has until June 15th or 17th, July 15th or July 17th to get a long-term deal done. If a long-term deal isn't done by then, he will have to play under the franchise tag or refuse to play for that season. But I definitely think that a long-term deal will get done.
Yeah, I do as well. Like I said, so if we do sign to a long-term deal, you kind of partly answered it, but what sort of hit do you think that I'll have on the cap this season?
So again, I think if you come in at 13 average per year, you might be looking at around 6 million this season will be against the cap, freeing up 4 million. And 4 million, yourself, is a good mid-level player. So if you're signing them to that type of deal, be able to drop the cap a little bit this season, you might be paying 16 for the next 3 years, but you're paying 5 or 6 this season. I definitely think it will help the cap situation. And like I said, it'll be another decent player to come in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we need some decent players in plenty of other positions. So I think that definitely helps. So Craig, do you want to see Barkley back in blue in 2023?
I mean, I'm wearing the jersey.
The fact you're wearing the jersey, yeah. I was literally just about to say you're wearing the jersey.
You have to give it the old, so you can see the old 2-6.
Give it the old 2-6. Absolutely, I see him playing in blue. I will say I don't think he will play under the franchise tag because we'll sign him to a new deal. I know we'll put on note that I don't see Barkley as the type of player to refuse to play if he is still on the franchise tag. I don't think he's got that kind of mentality. I don't think it benefits him either. Running back's one of these positions where it's undervalued because of how many players can technically break off big runs. Now, don't get me wrong, Barkley is an absolute champion at his position. He's one of the best, but the problem is teams see so little value in the running back position that if he takes a year out, he probably struggles to get signed after that. And I think he's a smart guy, and his agents will probably say to him, look, it's not in your best interests. Play on the tag, prove it, get big money elsewhere if necessary. And let's not rule out the fact that and Kev, you might. I'm going to throw it to you again because of knowing the intricacies of the franchise tag. But can he be tagged again next season?
Yeah, he can, and he would get. See, that's some people are saying okay, we just tag him now, and then if you tagged him again, you would get 120% of the fully guaranteed money. So with it being 10.1 this year, if you tagged him again next season, he'd be entitled to 12.22 million. Both fully guaranteed. So that's a starting point. Sorry to interrupt that. So that'd be the starting point. 2 years, 23 million. All right, what do we do for 3-4 years? How do we work it? That's fully guaranteed. And then, look at it that way.
Yeah, man. I think running back is definitely one of those positions that is so reliant on form. You look at backs in the past few years that have had amazing seasons and gone on to sign big contracts and then have absolutely nosedived. I think Todd Gurley comes to mind when you talk about that. And it's all about form. It's all about momentum. And if they have one good season, they can command big money. If he does if he does sign a big contract and nosedive this season, which touchwood he doesn't, then we're unlucky. But I think if he signs a deal and has a pretty good season, then I think we're onto a winner. I can't see him regressing on this year. I think he had a solid year this year, and I think again under that sort of same offense and in the same scheme, he's only going to get better. And he is one of the best backs in the league, and I think we need to pay the man to show that he is one of the best in the league.
I think as well, what everyone's going to be saying around Saquon Barkley, and this is friends, family, agents, and the Giants. You refuse 12 million or 12 and a half over 3 years. You're now going to play for 1 year for 10 million, so less money with no long-term guarantee. So it makes more sense for us to come to an agreement. You get security, you get more money, and we get you back. And I think they can use that as a bargaining chip. And I'll try and say this without my Penn State hat on, but I find it quite annoying when people say, "Oh, he's just a running back." I don't see Saquon Barkley as just a running back. One of his best plays, in my opinion, this year. We was all there for it. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Saquon, he was in the slot, I think he was, and DJ threw a pass to him, and he just sort of broke it. And I think he broke a tackle, and then obviously he got caught up. Which, okay, yeah, you can say he's lost a step. Everyone loses a step as they get older. He's 26 now. He's not the 21-year-old that he was, 22 we was when he come into the league. So, of course, he's going to lose a step. That happens as you get older. But I just think the Giants can actually use Saquon, not just as a pure running back. I think I don't think we use Saquon's hands as much as we probably should, because he's got the hands, and when he's in the open field, he's got the moves to make people miss as well.
Yeah, he's an absolute weapon, and he should definitely just be used more in the passing game and utilize the fact that he can catch and run and break tackles. You know, and
he's gotten very good at pass protection as well in the last year.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just, you know, it just makes complete sense to tie him up. I think,
and he's a piece of the franchise as well.
100%. He's a you know, between him and Jones, their two jerseys sell more than any other players. So I think the two faces of the franchise, sign them both up, and we've already signed one up. All right then. So as we revealed a couple of weeks ago, we're tracking Shane and Kev's favorite draft analysts' mock drafts to see who they predict the Giants are going to select with pick 25. 4 out of 5 of them have released their second mocks this week or over the last sort of week or so. The 5 analysts being Mel Kiper and Todd McShay of ESPN, Bucky Brooks and Dan Jeremiah of NFL.com, and also radio host Lance Zerline. And out of the 4 to release their second versions, both Todd McShay and Bucky Brooks stuck with their original picks from the first one and went with Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College. Mel Kiper went with TCU wideout Quentin Johnston, and Lance Zerline seems to be the only one that thinks Big Blue won't pick receiver with the first round pick, and he's gone for Dalton Kincaid tight end out of Utah for the Giants pick in his second mock draft as well. What do you guys make of those picks?
I hate them. I really do. I'll get onto it, but I've no interest in Quentin Johnson whatsoever. And Dalton Kincaid, first round's too rich for me. I think there's better players available with that pick. And if there's not, trade out. I'd rather trade out than take. I like Dalton Kincaid. We'll get onto it at some point where he's on my board, and I do really like him. I think he's going to be a good tight end, but I don't think he's worth 25 overall.
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly touch on the Quentin Johnson one, we'll get into that in a second. I think that's a good pick. I actually like him. I think he's got the traits to be a top-level wide receiver in this league. The Kincaid one, the Kincaid one's interesting because I don't think I think Bellinger is good enough that we don't need to go tight end in the first, although I do believe we need to draft a tight end or bring in tight end help, whether that be through agency mid-level or whether that be through later on in the draft. But I think there's not enough of a weakness there for us to go there with the first round pick.
Nice. Thanks for that, gents. Names to look out for, I suppose, and see where they go in the order of the draft. So coming up at the end of April, their names to keep an eye out for. Alrighty, so it's that time again. Our resident college football experts are in the building. We've decided it's time to start looking at their 2023 draft boards. Starting off by breaking down their top 5 quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers. It's time for me and you, Craig, to sit back, relax, and learn. Kev and Shane, over to you both.
Yeah, so quarterback rankings. So for me, I've gone for Bryce Young as my number 1 QB, Anthony Richardson at number 2, Will Levis at 3, CJ Stroud at 4, and Hendon Hooker at 5. Anyone who watched the combine at the weekend, there seems to be a little bit of a crush or a loving developed over Anthony Richardson's performance. I do really like him. I think he's probably got the highest ceiling of all the players in the draft. I think Hendon Hooker's been overlooked due to his, in part because of his age, but also because of the injuries coming off the ACL injury that he had last season. And as for CJ Stroud, I'll come on to this in a little while with a different player as well. I just don't like Ohio State quarterbacks. It's nothing to do with being Penn State, honestly. But I just feel like Ohio State quarterbacks just don't transition very well in the NFL. So that's why he's as low down as 4 for me, because I just got no interest in them.
Well, yeah, just to touch on my top 5. I mean, I've gone CJ Stroud out of Ohio State number 1. I just think he's the most well-rounded quarterback in the league. I mean, he's got a beautiful passer. He's got enough escapability to maneuver around the pocket, but he's got a lovely touch pass, and he's your prototypical height and weight for the position. Bryce Young is electric. I mean, he's makes plays out of nothing, but that 5'10", as we'll talk about a lot of these draft sort of prospects over the next couple of weeks. I'm very traditional in sort of like the things I like for the positions, and just the 5'10" just scares the hell out of me. You know, I don't really know if I think he'll be good in the league, but I'm just getting Murray vibes from him. Will Levis again, I think, has the potential to be the complete tight end. Complete quarterback. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. He just hasn't been as accurate as I was hoping he'd be. But, you know, at the University of Kentucky, he didn't really have the weapons this season to be able to showcase what he's capable of. And Anthony Richardson, as Shane alluded to, he's an absolute beast. He's a freak. You know, he runs a 4.4 in the 40. He lifts everything. He jumps over everything. He jumps further than everyone. He's an absolute phenom. You know, he's kind of like a better version of Cam Newton, but the 1 year starting scares me. The inaccuracy scares me. The decision making scares me. And then on to Hendon Hooker, I think, who is the same age as Daniel Jones now, and we've mentioned Hendon Hooker in the past. Again, he's a player I really like, and to be honest, if it wasn't for his age and his injury history, I'd have him so much higher on this list. But I think at 5 is sort of the sweet spot for him at the moment.
Nice. I think with the dude out of Florida, Richardson, the fact that he broke the record for vertical jump for a quarterback at the combine this weekend, he's a freak of an athlete. Bryce Young, though, I mean, his size is going to be a massive problem in this league, isn't it? It's going to be a huge problem. The fact that he weighed in at 204 at the combine, he's put on weight over the last few weeks. Because before
false weight, I think.
Yeah,
pre-combine
he was under 200, and it's been 40 years since a quarterback was drafted in the first round that weighed less than 200 pounds, and there's a reason for that. Because in the league, he's going to get absolutely destroyed, unless he's behind the best offensive line in the league. I mean, he's a talented guy.
Don't get me wrong. I mean,
he
played in the SEC, right? So obviously that's the best league, the best division, conference in college football. But I just think, like, you know, if you get some of these offensive linemen are 6'7", 6'6", 6'7". I mean, they were saying in some of the combine pressers and stuff, or sort of the combine commentary, a GM would actually think about having to draft 6'2", 6'1" linemen, just so for him to be able to like see over them. And they said his anticipation is so good that they believe he would throw passes without being able to see. Just he knows where the ball should be, and he knows where his receivers should be, and he does such good film study that he knows where the defense is as well. But still, it just scares me.
It's so it doesn't work for me. I think you got to be able to see over your offensive line to start with. And I think,
okay, quick question for you. So if you've got number 1 overall pick and you need a quarterback, are you taking CJ Stroud?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, I'd take Richardson.
Would you? I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, the thing with Richardson is, right, and I heard someone say it again over the combine weekend, that all draft picks are lottery picks. Right? They're all lottery picks. Like, there's nothing guaranteed. We know that. How many times have we studied guys coming into the league and they've bombed, absolutely bombed? So they're all lottery picks. So they're saying, why not take the punt on someone with such a high ceiling that if you hit on that player, it could be phenomenal. So I get that part of it.
No, that's fair enough. I think Richardson, he out of the five guys you picked, I think he looks to me like the most ready and just looks like a bit of a freak of nature, really. Like I said, he does remind me very much of Cam Newton.
Well, funny you said, like, a lot of people do think that he actually should sit for a year. Like, he should go to. A lot of people say the Lions would be a perfect fit. Go there, Goff. Sit behind Goff. Goff's coming to the end of his contract. Sit behind him. Goff can do enough for a year or two for you. Or even the Seahawks with they just signed who did they sign? Gino to a 3-year deal, which is really a 1 or 2 year deal that they can get out of. So if you draft Richardson there, he can sit behind Gino, another mobile quarterback, for 2 seasons. Let Gino go, and then you've got your ready-made replacement. So it is interesting to see where he lands.
Yeah, but I think all 5 of the guys on your list, I mean, they're all real talented guys, and they're probably all going to go in the first round, aren't they? Let's face it. But it's going to be interesting and intriguing to see who goes above who. And also, because, Chicago aren't going to go, they're going to trade out at number 1, aren't they? Realistically, because I think they're going to stick with what's his name?
Fields.
Justin Fields.
They'll definitely stick with Justin Fields. Justin Fields showed enough last season that I think he can be a franchise quarterback. And I think a good friend of mine, Deal, that might be watching this now, he's a massive Bears fan. He's been telling me the bevy of picks that he's expecting, but they might not get all the ones he wants. But I definitely think they might be able to maneuver back a couple of times because people want these QBs. And it's very different to quarterback class from last season, where it's kind of no one wanted to pick anyone. But I think the Bears will do well out of this for future capital.
And I think the guys you've both graded at number 1, are they truly sort of stand out number 1 guys in your opinion, or do you think that all the rest are very, very close behind?
I think, for me, like I said, Bryce Young's my number 1 quarterback because I've seen the tape. He's played at Bama, he's played in the best conference in football. I've seen enough to say that I think he's going to do it in the league. I really do. But like I say, Richardson's the QB I would take if it was up to me because of that high ceiling. And all the talk coming out of Indy from the combine at the weekend is that he smashed everything. Like, not even just the drills, like even the meetings, the way he conducted himself. He was absolutely outstanding from everything I've sort of heard and read on the internet. So he would be.
The rumblings he could go first overall.
Say again, sorry.
There's rumblings Richardson go first overall.
That's what I mean. But then, I'm not going to discount Will Levis. He's got a cannon of an arm. He could easily be maybe the first quarterback off the board. He's probably not going to be, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was. I kind of think the only one who's probably not a lock in for the first round because of injury and age is Hooker.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice.
I think it's the top 4, and then it'll be a wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. The top 4 can easily go in the top 5 picks.
That'll be interesting. Cool. All right then. So moving on. Running backs. Who you got?
Yeah, so I think we've both got resounding number 1, Bijan Robinson. Best prospect since Saquon Barkley, maybe.
That's what they say.
I'll be interested to see what Kev's thoughts is on the way he's ranked his. But for me, Charbonnet and Gibbs, it's 1A, 1B. They are the 2 next sort of standouts, and you could interchange them as you want. And realistically, it just comes down to what type of back you want. Charbonnet is that bigger bodied back, whereas Gibbs is a little bit more shifty. Dwayne McBride is a guy I'm so high on. He's probably going to turn out to be a bust now. I've said that.
Yeah.
But, this is a guy. He had just under 1,400 yards last year, 1,700 yards this year. He had over 1,000 yards after contact this year, as well as 76 missed tackles forced. And then Tank Bigsby. Again, I could literally have put about 5 or 6 different running backs at number 5, to be honest with you. And I just went with Tank Bigsby just because, number 1, it's a sick name. And number 2, I just prefer what he's put on tape. But I could have interchanged him with probably about 5 or 6 other running backs.
Number 1, he's called Tank. There you go. Job done. I'm
I
done.
know, it's a great name. Yeah, so with my 5, I've gone obviously number 1. Everyone's number 1. BJ Robinson. I mean, Bijan Robinson he is the best back since Saquon Barkley. I mean, he won't go in the top 10, I don't believe, because of the way the running back's valued at the moment. But he's easily one of the top 10 player in this draft. I mean, he just does it all. Does absolutely everything. He's a monster stop. He's so shifty at his size. I mean, if Barkley wasn't coming back, I'd be pounding the table for him at 25, to be honest, if he was there, but he won't be. And then on to Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is a very good sort of like pass catching back. He's again another shifty player. He's just one that kind of like does it all. Again with Charbonnet, again like a slightly different, a little bit more of a power back, but again he's an all round. I don't know. I sort of went between Gibbs and Charbonnet back and forward because I think if you actually twisted my arm, I might put Charbonnet as second because I just think he does a little more and is more well rounded. And I've put in Devon Achane because he's an absolute speed demon. I mean, he just ran, he's got a track background. He just ran a 4.32 at the combine. If you're looking for an absolute speed demon to go with a bigger back, then he'd be someone I'd be looking at. You know, if you're in the 3rd round there and you want to go a nice 1-2 punch, we've got 2 3rd-round picks, and he happens to be there. Like, you know, I'd be more than happy to pick him up. And then Tajay Spears. He showed it. He was one of by far the best player at the Senior Bowl, and then go back and to look more at more of his tape, and he's just got great contact balance. He's just, you know, he's not necessarily the biggest, he's not necessarily the fastest, but he just gets extra yards by not going down.
It's a clear top 3 there, right? And then after the top 3, again, it's sort of there's plenty of other guys that come into play.
Flavors in an ice cream shop, isn't that what they say?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a clear top 3.
I mean, I'd say Robinson's probably, in my opinion, he's a top 5 talent in this draft. I'd honestly put him that high. I'd probably maybe put Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, and I might put Anthony Richardson above him.
Cool.
And then he's sort of in that conversation of 4 or 5 best player in the draft.
Wow. He's that good then. All right then.
Yeah, if anyone does it fantasy football and you got the 101, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
All right, so if we don't re-sign Barkley, and another team decides to go up 2 first for him, and he walks off to another team, which one of those fits our scheme best?
Depends where
it's Robinson.
Yeah, but if you can get in the first round of this year, that sort of say, I don't know who's picking 15, for instance, or 18, but in that kind of range, then I'd have no issues. A 15th or the 18th overall pick being used on Bijan Robinson, knowing full well you've still got pick 25 coming up as well.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Just wondered.
Yeah,
So
you're just so far ahead the rest of the class.
Is he that good?
But there is depth to be had in them
really
kind of third and fourth rounds, you know, like Sean Tucker, Tank Bigsby, even Zach Evans, Chase Brown. They're all guys that are going to be good value in that kind of 3rd and 4th round.
So we've got 2 3rd-round picks. If we take a running back with one of those, what does that kind of say? Does that kind of say, okay, we're not looking at going too far with Barkley, or we're just looking to ease his workload?
We've got Breeder, haven't we? Breeder's a free agent, so he's gone. So we'll probably pick one up, I would expect, in the draft somewhere. Yeah. It seems to be the sweet spot, doesn't it? Round 3 for a lot of running backs nowadays.
Yeah.
Whitney, I do have a question about Robinson as well. Is he one-dimensional, or can he catch out the backfield? Because I've seen a lot of comparisons to sort of Kamara in that kind of shiftiness, but does he have the ability to catch as well?
Yeah,
obviously they all do, but is he up there when it comes to running backs?
He had 29 targets. He had 19 catches just gone. Last year he had 26 targets, 11 catches, 314 receiving yards, 293 last year. So he's one of them that when he gets the ball in his hands again, he doesn't go down at the first bit of contact. He can make a play and miss, and he can gain you that yardage. that you'd be looking for on that maybe third and fourth, third and fifth play, maybe on a screenplay, something like that.
Shane's big board is absolutely vast, full of knowledge. So over 100 missed tackles, is that right? In college, as well?
104, yeah, most in the league. 1,071 yards after contact.
He's a beast, lads. Honest to God.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. It's just interesting as well. Jameer Gibbs, is that how you say his name? Jameer. Yeah, he's about the same size as Mr. Young, isn't he? 5'9", 190. It's pretty much the same size as him. Like, that's crazy. Like, your quarterback's the same size as your running back. What's going on with that? Come on. Anyway, moving on. Lastly, then, receivers. Top 5 at receiver. Who have you guys gone for?
So my wide receiver ranking can probably be looked at a little bit controversial. I've got Jackson Smith and Jigba at number 1. Only played, I think it was 3 games this past year due to an hamstring injury, but he had a great combine. Some of the stats he put up on, like the 3-cone and the 20-yard shuttle, etc., was up there with some of the best that's been seen. Jordan Addison was my number 1 for a very long time. I'm really, really high on Jordan Addison. I'm going to counteract what I'm going to say next. I really like USC wide receivers. Zay Flowers is just a guy that I'm massively high on. I had him at wide receiver 5 at one point, and he's gone up to number 3. I hate TCU wide receivers. I hate TCU wide receivers more than I hate Ohio State quarterbacks. I'm going to give you 2 names.
Oh, that's saying something.
Josh Doctson and Jalen Rager, both first-round TCU wide receivers that were both bums. I have no interest.
Both tiny, though, weren't they?
Both awful, small.
Quinton Johnson's the one draft pick that I'll turn off. I'll be like, I don't want a TCU wide receiver. I'm scared of him, so I hate him. And then when it comes to wide receiver 5, again, there's probably about 3 or 4 players that I could have put in here. Josh James is the one I've chosen, who I'm quite high on, but likewise, I could have gone with what Kev's gone with in Jalen Hyatt as well.
Yeah, so I mean, we've gone very similar with them here. I've gone Quentin Johnson number 1. I mean, he's just, I mean, he's got so many good traits, and like, you know, he did go for over 1,000 yards on 60 catches. He, you know, he kind of just was their main man on their way to playing in the college playoff football final. Like, you know, he just, I think, I mean, saying this now, he's going to end up being like a Kevin White, isn't he, that the Bears drafted or something? But I just think it's all there, and it would just be a good foil for Daniel Jones. Although, as we said before, he's not typically the type of receiver that Daniel Jones that Daboll's going for. Shane, that's more the like of Jordan Addison and JSN. I mean, I could have flip-flopped these two, if I'm honest. I really could have. I mean, they're both extremely good right runners. They just get open. I mean, I seen more of Jordan Addison because Jackson Smith and Jigba, he was got injured early on in the season, and then he didn't really play for the season. And then the year before, he showed flashes, but he was behind the big 2 wide receivers from Ohio State. What were they? Olave and the Jets one. What's his name again?
Garrett Wilson.
So we didn't get to see much of him then, although he did go on fire in the bowl game, and I think it was the Rose Bowl. But so those 2, I mean, I don't think there's much difference between them. I just saw more of Jordan Addison the last couple of years to sort of put him in front of him. I think Zay Flowers is one of those ones that I think would be a great fit. Again, he just manages to get open. He can play inside, he can play outside. I know Jackson Smith and Jigba plays mostly on the inside, but I do believe he can play on the outside. Whereas Zay Flowers, really, we've seen him play everywhere across the line, and he kind of has a little bit of everything. And then Jaden Hyatt, I mean, we talked about him before with Hooker. You know, he was nowhere really to be seen. Tillman was supposed to be the big wide receiver this year, but Hyatt just came out of nowhere and ran for 1,300 yards for 15 touchdowns and just had an absolute monster season. And again, he's a bit of a speed demon. So, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of everything for everyone.
Looking at those top 5s at receiver, I think there's only one say one on both your lists that sort of is that typical big body wide receiver. All the rest are fairly small and slight, aren't they? So, is that sort of is that a good sort of insight into how the receiver class looks this year, or is there plenty of big body receivers as well?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've looked at, I don't think there's more of that kind of like 5'10" to 6'1" kind of range wide receivers. And I just think Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think he's the best wide receiver in this draft, hands down. I think a lot of people are thinking about his injury that he had this year, which I can completely understand. But last year he had 112 targets, 95 catches, which equated to an 85% catch rate and just under 1,600 yards. You know, the talent is 100% there. And that's, you know, again, it's not my job that's on the line. If I was to pick him, I can put him at the top of my board. And if he turns into a complete bust, no one ever remembers. I'm not the one who's going to be picking him. So that's why I can kind of afford to say, yeah, I've got him at the top of my board. But like for me personally, Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers, I'd be over the moon with any of them three at number 25.
I think they're all in play for us at 25 as well. I think one or two will go before. And obviously, I'll put my number one in that thing as well. So one of them should be in play for us at 25. And again, I'd be happy with either of them. I do think with Johnson, though, with him being sort of, I think he is fast and he can run away from people. And people see him as a big body receiver. The other guys very much sort of fit the mold of what I believe Dable wants his offense to be under Kafka. He wants Daniel Jones thrown to open receivers. He doesn't want to be throwing jump balls. Hence the reason why Kenny Galladay didn't really see the field and didn't get a target. He couldn't run away from people. And the one touchdown catch he had in the end was a contested catch. So I do think maybe the 3 or 4, my 2, 3, 4, 5 would be sort of better fits than my number one. But hey, you have to rank them somehow.
Yeah, definitely. I think, the fact that so many people are predicting a receiver coming to us at 25, it was going to be my question, which one of those do you think is best suited to the Giants, and which one is most likely to come?
I'd say that any of the top three. I've got JSN, Addison, or Flowers. I think they fit. I think when Wandale comes back from his injury, Wandale to me is a slot guy. He's pure slot, whereas the other three aren't pure slots. Like JSN, he can play in the slot, so you could have Wandale on one slot, JSN on another, or even Zay Flowers, and they run these crossing routes, and you know, good luck picking them up because they're both going to be shifty players. And I just think that they are going to be a better fit rather than that 6'3" TCU bust.
He's calling it now.
You predict
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, like I said, the only reason why I maybe see like Addison or Flowers because I've seen them play on the outside more and I've seen them get separation out there. I mean, you're going to get a lot of shifts running across the back of the offensive line. You know, so you're not going to play much man coverage and they'll be able to get open that way. So to be honest, I mean, the wide receiver isn't that deep. I mean, there's good wide receivers there, but there's none that would say shout top 10 at you.
Nice. That's cool. So hopefully then your top guys will drop down to us at 25 and they're all in play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Winner.
Or we move up for one. For me, look, so you look at, I was going to say, if you look at the top three guys I've got, if say 2 of them are off the board, I'm fine with moving up. I don't want to take that. If it gets to pick 21 and there's only one guy on the board left out of them 3, I'm fine with moving up for one of them.
So if there's all 3 on the board, would you move back?
Yeah, it's 28.
Yeah, pick up. Yeah, that's a fair point, and it's something worth thinking of, I suppose. But no, I think the receiver class is going to be one we're going to be focused on quite a lot because you know it's one of those positions we need to strengthen at. But say we do go for another slot guy, and then all right, we're now looking for an outside receiver in free agency. What outside receivers in free agency are you guys looking at?
I'm still high on like the McCall Hardman train. I really am. I think he can play that, take the top off the defense, kind of be a distraction, and he's good. Like he's got his injury issues, but you know there's other guys that you could maybe draft later on in the draft. I mean, if you lose Slayton, don't get we won't really have a speedster on the team. If you start looking at what some of the players ran in the combine, Trey Palmer ran a 4.33. He's probably one of the quickest. And then all the other wide receivers kind of ran a 4 in the mid 4.4s, early 4.4s. So I mean, Zay Flowers ran a 4.42, which I know kind of gets knocked as not very fast because you think, 4.2s, 4.3s is what you want as fast, but 4.42 is still pretty damn quick.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather.
I could probably run 10 in 4 seconds, not 40.
But instead of running fast in a straight line, I'd rather people who run fast out of breaks.
Yeah, I think straight line speed isn't necessarily the number one metric you want to look for in a receiver. It's a lot. There's a lot of other variables you're looking for as well, right?
Don't be surprised though if we come away with 2 or 3 receivers drafted in this upcoming draft.
But that'd be good though, to have a nice young receiving core alongside Wandale Robinson.
And Hodgins.
And and in Isaiah Hodgins having his first full season as Giants. So yeah, it'd be nice to have that young receiver room and talented one of that as well. Alrighty, as usual, I love hearing both your thoughts on the best prospects, and it gives me names to look out for, and also who to expect to be off the board sort of in that sort of first and second round. So yeah, it gives me some names to look into and to brush up on. So yeah, thanks for that, guys. Appreciate it. That is all we've got time for this week, Giants fans. We will be back next Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. So join us as we look at the start of free agency tampering period, and also we start to break down the defensive prospects in this year's draft as Shane and Kev bring in their top 5s, that defensive lineman, edge, and linebacker. Anything else to add before we go, guys?
Now, just let's see what free agency brings. We know what we've got to play with essentially now. I think we might make a couple of big splashes. I'm hoping one of them is going to be on a linebacker, to be honest. So maybe that's where the most money's spent. So I think, is it from Monday the legal tampering can start? But I won't be surprised if the tampering's already started.
Yeah.
Plenty of phone calls being made, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's lots of, I think there's a good few linebackers that we kind of discussed and we will discuss going forward in the in free agency that I think are perfect fits for us. But just to end the podcast with, very pleased about getting the Daniel Jones deal done. We're able to tag then Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is our best offensive weapon. Daniel Jones is and can be a franchise QB. Let's go and use a bit of money that we've got and the draft capital we've got to really build this team now.
And also, don't forget about the fact that we still have until Monday, really, to start talking to our own free agents who are coming up, Julian Love. And also, if you listen to Shane's presser earlier, he's already started conversations with Dexter Lawrence's representatives, and there will be others as well. So there's a lot of moving and shaking to happen before the tampering part of things starts, and then it really starts to ramp up as we build the roster before the draft, and it should hone in where we're going to go in the draft as well, especially with the early picks.
Yeah, there's a lot coming up next week to look forward to in terms of free agency, and there's it's all going to start things are all going to start falling into place, molding our roster, and bringing in the talent we need to build on the success we had in 2022. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that little bell in the top corner as well to get the latest updates and notifications. Follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Just search for Big Blue UK and Ireland. You can also find us on the New York Giants UK Facebook page, and also get in touch with us via email, bigblueukirl@gmail.com. Dan Jones is still a New York Giant. It's a good start to 2023. My thanks as ever go to you, Shane, Kev, and Craig for joining me, and to you, the listeners and viewers, for tuning in. We are signing off. Until next time.